Hello and welcome back to our latest Get to Know Your Neighbours webinar. Obviously slightly biased, but I think so far the series has been going really well. So no pressure, gents. Since the start of March, we've had a great virtual walk around the park with meeting all the different businesses, and I'm really looking forward to continuing the journey today with you guys. I think the businesses represent all that's great about the Science Park. You all provide a mix of expertise and services and a range of technologies, and represent businesses of varying sizes as well. I think this magical combination ensures that there's never a dull moment at the Science Park, and make for some great chats around the kettle. So I mean, it's lovely to have you all with us today. So just a bit of housekeeping. We'll rattle through the three presenters, hopefully each taking no more than 10 minutes, and then we'll follow with some question and answer at the end. So I'll try and keep everyone on time, so won't keep you for too long. For our guests, please put any questions into the chat or directly to myself, and if there aren't any questions, we can just have a chat amongst ourselves at the end. So feel free to leave your cameras on so we can see everyone's smiley faces. First up today, I'm really pleased to introduce Paul Haycock, from Business Development Manager at BMT. BMT joined the Science Park community in, I think, January of 2020. Oh, sorry, someone's beeping outside the window. Moving into the ground floor of our phase 2 building, so give them a shout out if you're passing. BMT are a maritime orientated high-end design house and technical consultancy firm. They deliver all sorts of design, engineering and consultancy services to a very complex and competitive market. And beyond that, I have no clue. So we'll hand over to Paul and he'll be able to tell us a lot more. Okay, Paul, over to you.
Yeah, well, good afternoon, and thank you, Faye. Yep, we've been on the site for just over 2 years, arrived just before COVID from a central Plymouth office. We've got about 15 people or so based out of that office up at the Science Park, which covers people down into Cornwall and up as far as Exeter, and growing. And they cover the range of consultancy services that we've got, which I will run through right now. I'm ex-Navy. I joined BMT in 2017, and I've been doing business development and sales with industry ever since. As Faye alluded to, we are, and I'm going to share my screen because I should be doing that right now. We are a consultancy that whose historical roots lie in maritime and maritime defence, but it's has grown a lot since then. So we've been around since 1985, and are primarily Bath-based, our centre of gravity. Is that working by way of screen sharing?
No, not yet.
Can you see it coming through?
No, nothing yet.
Okay.
There we go. Looks like something's
Let's give that a go.
coming along slowly.
Okay. Oh, you've actually got the slideshow side, which is exciting.
There we go. Yeah, we've got that.
Okay. However, rules control thing.
Sorry, your sound went a bit funny then, Paul. So maybe it's a connectivity problem.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got your front page now of your slide deck.
Yeah. No, I can see that. But it's not letting me show. Okay. That's not a good start, is it?
You could try escape and then just go back into preview mode and rattle through the slides that way, maybe.
It's just all frozen, and I'm right.
Would you like us to switch the running order and come back to you, Paul? Would that help?
Yeah, I think so. If you don't mind.
Unless you can wing it with just
sharing. I'll try and sort my life out this end, and I'll come back to you.
Okay, sorry to put you on the spot here, Dr. Edward Williams from Rowe IT, giving you a Sunday best name. So next in the firing line, we've got Ed from Rowe IT. We've supported Rowe IT at the Science Park for a number of years. most recently into quite a massive office in our lovely phase 5 buildings, top floor, so go say hello to those guys. They've been growing at a rate of knots for a number of years now, and they're involved in all sorts of really exciting projects. So I'll hand over to Ed, and he'll be able to tell you a bit more.
Thank you, Faye. Thank you. I start by sharing my screen, and hopefully
yeah, that's all good.
That's good, is it? Okay,
yeah.
Fabulous. So afternoon, everyone. So I'm here to talk about Rowe IT. Rowe is a digital consultancy, an IT consultancy, and we've been around for quite a few years, starting from quite small acorns. Me myself, I've been with the company now for around 6 months. Although I've known Paul Rowe, the founder and owner of the company, for many years, since university days, in actual fact. So in terms of talking about us, I think we'll start with a whistle stop of who we are and what it is we do. So, as I say, a digital consultancy, started in 2008 by Paul Rowe, and working with primarily the meteorological office, the Met Office in Exeter, as the client of the time, and they've stayed with us right the way through as the organisation has grown. So we're now at a stage where we have around 40 employees. As Faye mentioned, we're in one of the nice large offices. I think that's our 3rd office we've had within the Plymouth Science Park, each one getting bigger. Hopefully by 2032 we will occupy the entirety of the Plymouth Science Park. We have a number of really talented people working with us. You can see some of them on the slide there waving to you, so hopefully you'll wave back. They're a mixture of IT specialists. Some are architects. We have a number of software engineers, business analysts, and more besides. And as a company, I think in the IT world, often you build product and sell product to your clients, or you work quite closely with your clients, building software for them. And we're very much in that latter camp. We work with our clients in a very customer focused way. We prefer to work as one team with them. Sometimes we put quite large teams into our clients, sometimes really quite small teams, sometimes 1 or 2 people who will work then alongside some of our clients and their staff on delivering value. And we work typically on what we would call enterprise size solutions, so quite large often, and we work on designing those, architecting them, as well as developing them, and more often these days on running those in live operations as well. We work a lot with the public sector. I think primarily with the public sector. We do private sector work as well, and we have a real core specialism in meteorological geospatial type solutions, as well as defence as well. Here is a selection of some of our clients. I say the Met Office is one of our real key clients. They've been with us from the start, and we've run an awful lot of projects with them. A few more on here. A more recent one, Transport for Greater Manchester, is a more recent client of ours, and hopefully we're at the start of a journey with them as well, and a relationship. Where we work most comfortably with our clients, I think, is where our clients have a very strong kind of social or environmental purpose about them. That seems like quite a common theme for us. Obviously, the Met Office does a lot of work around environmental awareness and improvement. Forest research, I'll mention a little bit more about in a minute. Transport for Greater Manchester has a very strong clean air policy around Manchester, encouraging better, greener transport. And in terms of the type of work we do with our clients, if you think of the way typically any organization works when it wants to improve itself, it starts from that question is, what is it we want to do, the strategizing and understanding their business and how to improve. And we can help with I consider myself an enterprise architect, and I've done a lot of strategy work with clients around how they can become more digital, work better with their customers. But then we can take that on to the actual delivery of solutions. We can architect those solutions, we can design them. We work in a lot of different technologies, both customer facing and back office systems, and right down at some very, very technical levels as well. And having delivered solutions, we then can run those on behalf of our clients, providing 24/7 managed service, monitoring things on their behalf, providing help desk functionality, providing patching, security updates, etc. as we go through. And then, as is common in the public sector, we find a lot of our clients have a very strong governance and assurance level. Are we doing things in the right way? Are we doing them correctly? And we can help and support them in some of those assurance and governance activities as well. So when we talk about some of our clients there, it'll be useful, I think, just to try and bring it to life a little bit, to focus on just a couple of the projects that are currently live with our clients. We typically have about 6 or 7 projects going with different clients. This is an example of one of our big ones and one of our smaller ones. So one of our latest with the Met Office is something called the CDA, the Customer Data Access Portal. And this is delivering a facility to the Met Office customers to allow them to subscribe and pay for weather data sets. And if you think of weather, it's a really quite a high volume set of data that can consist of different variables and measurements, precipitation, pressures, wind speeds, all of those things at different altitudes as well is important to some of their clients. So we've delivered a facility which allows different Met Office clients to focus on the data they are interested in and pay for that data as packages, and it's quite high volume, and it's quite a high amount of data that processes every day. And we've done this very closely with them, working on what we call user-centered design, using our one of our partners who's a UX specialist to work with our team and the Met Office team to really focus in on what the customer needs there. More recently, we've been working with Forest Research. Forest Research are an arm's length body, public sector body, who are responsible for monitoring the health of the trees across the nation. And they have an online facility where their volunteers and members of the public can register particular diseases, or if they see something that's wrong with a particular tree. It's really important that Forest Research know about that as soon as possible. There are if you think of things like ash dieback, which you may be aware of, that's a problem with ash trees. Knowing about that as soon as possible in a new area is really important. So we have built a facility to allow those volunteers to register where they see something that's doesn't look right with a tree. This time of year, caterpillars. This was a bit of an excuse to get a caterpillar on the screen, and other pests can cause a lot of problems. And we built the front end and we built the back end, and we're continuing to work with them on that. And we've also built some ancillary type functions around there to help them share data using something called an open data interface. And it's proving very successful for us. We've just finished what we're now calling phase 1, and we're hopefully soon moving into phase 2 of that development. I'm aware of time. I'm getting towards the end of my 10 minutes, so I just thought I'd finish with a little bit about our culture and values. I've worked with quite a few companies over my career. I think Rowe has a very, very strong essence of trying to support the staff that works for them. We want to deliver outstanding value to our clients, but we also want to make sure that our staff feel valued themselves, and we do that in quite a lot of ways. Our vision is to say deliver that fantastic experience for our clients, but our values are very much focused around how to make our staff feel like they really are part of a great company, and we do that in a number of ways. We do things like support through knowledge share, and we do that really actively. You may have noticed in the car park occasionally the pizza van that sometimes appears. You may have even tried to snaffle a pizza from it. That's something that supports what we call our Pizza Fridays, which are one of our key knowledge sharing events. We do a lot of work as well with schools, universities, to try and help and give back some of our skills and experience in the local area as well. We've got a thriving apprenticeship program, for example, where we've running that in conjunction with the University of Exeter, and we've got an apprentice working with us at the moment. So that really is a minute over, and I apologize for that, but that's Rowe, and come and say hello to us if you're passing.
That's great, thank you so much. I've had massive pizza envy most Fridays for the last few weeks, so thank you ever so much, Ed. That was excellent. I love your logo as well. I feel like I always want to add squiggly lines to ours, but
yes, little doodles. Everyone loves a doodle.
Okay, thank you. Right, I'm conscious of time, so we will. I'm absolutely delighted to next introduce Jack Shepherd, who's one of the founding directors of Matthew Edward Limited. Jack, Nick, and their team joined the Science Park around the same time as BMT, March, early 2020, I think, and they've been a great addition to our park community as an independent engineering and construction consultancy. They provide a huge range of services and solutions, and I'm looking forward to hearing a bit more from Jack now. So I'll hand over to you and stop waffling.
Thank you. I'll keep this fairly short and sweet, to be honest. So is that working?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So we are Matthew Edward. And my screen is frozen. Perfect. Yeah, as Plato, so we're an engineering and construction consultancy, which I'll explain in a bit more detail what that means in a second. So the company was incorporated in February 2020, which timing-wise was obviously perfect, given that was basically the start of COVID. By myself and my business partner, which is Nick Stolfer. And initially we were sort of working remotely. And then as we looked to take on staff, as the amount of business that we were conducting was increasing, we were looking for an office, and we found the Science Park, and it sort of seemed to fit our needs. So we moved into our office here in July 2020, I think. And we're still in the same office at the moment, but if things continue the way they're going, then we may need a slightly larger one soon. We've currently got 5 full-time staff based at the Science Park, but we would definitely take on more. It's basically a question of we can't find the right people, or they don't exist at the moment. So we've got enough work to take on a lot more people, which is really, really positive, but we just can't find the staff at the moment. So hopefully that will improve soon. So in terms of what we do as an engineering construction consultancy, our background is mainly M&E, which is mechanical and electrical engineering. So I'm a mechanical engineer by trade, and Nick's an electrical engineer, and those two disciplines generally go together. which is why it's called M&E engineering. So that's sort of our bread and butter. So that's our kind of day-to-day stuff. But we found a lot of our clients also are interested in add-on services and multidisciplinary projects and stuff. So we have a select few other consultants that we work with on multi-disc projects, where we're the sort of lead engineer, and then we bring in other local companies to work alongside us to deliver kind of bespoke projects for our clients. And what it means generally from the mechanical engineering point of view is, if a very simple analogy is, it's everything that's sort of in a building. So if an architect designs a building and makes it look pretty, a structural engineer makes it stay up, and we do everything that goes in it. So heating, lighting, ventilation. If you don't feel too hot or too cold in a building and you can see and you can breathe, generally we've done our job. With the way that things are going at the moment as well, there's a lot of focus on energy and sustainability. That's also becoming a big part of what we do. So we're registered energy assessors, and we can also do thermal modeling and a lot of assessments for overheating and various other modeling on buildings to improve the way they function. And that's something that will become more necessary with some changes that are coming into building regulations this year in June. So in terms of who we work with, it's a fairly broad range of clients. Our sort of one of our biggest clients or sort of end users is the MOD. So we do a lot of defence work. We're fairly ideally positioned in the southwest, that being in Plymouth. So we work in the dockyard, and we work in some of the other MOD sites up towards Gloucester, some of the barracks. So we've done a lot of projects for the MOD through various avenues. Obviously, I can't go into too much detail about that because of the nature of them. But aside from that, we also work for various other people, and that it could be anything from a small housing development to a new retail complex to schools. So it's very, very broad. And a lot of our business is repeat business. So it comes from clients that we've previously worked with either in a previous life before Matthew Edward, or who we've been introduced to as Matthew Edward, who come back after we've worked for them, because our sort of mentality is to make sure that we deliver quality. We often end up doing more than we get paid to do, but I think that's kind of where our reputation sits. So that's why people come back to us. And then in terms of the sectors, again, defence is probably our sort of key sector at the moment, but we also are fairly diversified. So we work on residential and commercial education, a bit of industrial. I'm trying to look at healthcare at the moment. Obviously, with Derriford being down the road, we've had a few inquiries from that, but as of yet, nothing's come to fruition on that. There's a few examples of projects that we've completed recently. Again, just sort of showing the diverse range. So Royal William Yard in Plymouth, that was quite an interesting one. Winslade Manor House was a development of an old manor house into offices and stuff. And then probably one of the most interesting ones on that screen is the one on the bottom left, which is a new build house. And generally, as consultants, we don't get involved with residential projects, but that one was £10 million, so probably more expensive than a lot of commercial buildings. And it was, yeah, it's still on site at the moment. It's a very interesting but quite challenging project. That is short and sweet, like I said, and hopefully that's Matthew Edward in a nutshell. But obviously, if you've got any questions, feel free to ask them at the end.
Thank you. I've gone from having pizza envy to now having house envy.
Yeah.
Okay, now so we'll go full circle back and try and get Paul back online now if we can, please.
Yep, I can hear you. You can hear me.
Yeah, let's have see if we can get those slides working.
I'm just going to share screens. Yeah.
It's anything like mine. You've got about 6,000.
That's okay.
There we go. Looks like that's coming good now. a bit
Are we
slow.
on?
I've got the started screen sharing message at the moment.
It
So we'll
tells
just
me
give
it's
it a minute.
sharing. So
Yeah, sometimes it takes a minute. Yeah, I can't see your
I should
slides.
have stayed
Oh, there
in
we
the
go.
office at the science park, because then
Yeah,
I
I
would have
know.
had
Quality
better
network.
connectivity.
There we go. We've got you.
Obviously.
BMT at a glance, I can see now. So I think you're good to go. Thank you.
Okay. Well, first of all, apologies for not making it work the first time around. But anyway, BMT, yeah, we're over 1,500 people spread across the world, but our centre of gravity is very much UK. Been around since 1995. We came out what was the predecessor to Defence Equipment and Support, VWood, up in Bristol, naval architects, and we've grown since then out of Bath, around the UK and globally. 30 or so officers, turnover you can see there, and importantly, we remain independent, and we do quite a lot of customer friend, client friend type assurance, a bit similar to that which Ed was talking about. That global sort of footprint sees us in Canada, US, Australia, Singapore, and Netherlands. We've undergone a bit of rationalisation in the last 2 or 3 years, in that we used to have a lot more offices in a lot more countries, but we've rationalised, obviously, the sort of offshore industry, the critical infrastructure industry, the mining machinery industry, has you know, gone through a bit of a bad patch, although it's starting to pick up again now. So we've rationalised. For example, we've sort of closed down offices in Indonesia, Malaysia, and India, but centralised them in Singapore. So we hub and spoke regionally out of Singapore, as and when required. Our current markets, we sort of lump our sort of offering to industry and to to defence and government into 4 areas: so defence and security, customer friend, maritime design and consultancy, environmental, and asset monitoring and sustainment. And they're in size, so you can see the sort of grey element of that donut is very much the defence and security side of our business, and then increasingly getting slightly smaller as we go through the design, the environmental piece, and the asset monitoring side of the business. Defence is very much the biggest part of our business across all of those countries and those businesses, and Europe is likewise the biggest chunk of that. So the dark blue dominates. That being said, though, the environmental side is growing, particularly in Australia, where we've got quite a strong footprint in the environmental side, and we're looking to replicate that and grow that within the UK. The sort of, we call them the famous 4, but maritime design and consultancy. On the left-hand side, we have 2 design houses, really, both in the commercial and the defence business, and you'll see some examples of the platforms that we've designed or part design as we go through some of the other slides. Asset monitoring and sustainment, very much into the critical infrastructure, the offshore industry, particularly the Gulf of Mexico, and in Australia, taking data from high-end, extremely expensive platforms, and recording, monitoring, and indeed evaluating and reporting on the multitude of information that comes out of those platforms. Environmental and climate solutions, not just carbon net zero, but we tend to focus on the climate resilience, the sustainability, and the vulnerability of a lot of infrastructure, particularly coastal infrastructure in the defence world. The dockyard we've talked about already. It's old, it's right on the waterfront, and it is very vulnerable to rising sea levels and other meteorological events. And defence and security, acquisition and customer friend. It's where we came from, and it's still, as I saw earlier, by far away one of the biggest chunks of our business, both above water and below water. The maritime design and consultancy side of the business, we design commercial vessels, we design ferries, you know, with many different powertrains, hybrid power, electric, and you know, imaginative or innovative, you know, interactive bow and gangway systems, and defence platforms. You see there the Thai class tanker, which is you quite often see it in the Sound, as they support the ships undergoing training. That's a BMT design, built in Korea with DSME, fitted out in AMP in Falmouth, and you know, a BMT designed through and through. Also, the aircraft carrier, we were a key partner in the ACA, the Aircraft Carrier Alliance. In fact, the Twin Island idea and design was a BMT innovation, something you don't see on other carriers of similar sizes elsewhere in the world. We design offshore crew transfer vessels, particularly for offshore wind farms. Quite a growing market both around the UK, Europe, and elsewhere. Patrol boats. We don't design submarines, but we design bits of submarines and systems, and support the equipments that go into them. But also these ships need to be safe, need to be environmentally sound, and need to have the logistical support and the evidence to support their continuing employment and operational availability through life. So we do a lot of design engineering and engineering services support into those platforms. We have a commercial arm which is based out of Rotterdam, which does the standards of marine investigation into incidents and accidents, the usual sort of surveying, coastal planning, and so forth. We also have a cutting-edge commercial synthetic ship simulation and navigational training system, which is in service with probably 40 or 50 commercial companies. The high-end, high-risk platforms, you know, the liquid natural gas carriers, the cruise ships, and it's used for accident investigation and incident investigation. In fact, it was used in the Evergreen incident in the Suez Canal, because they can play through different scenarios. They can put in different weather conditions, different speeds, different control signals from tugs, and so forth. The defence and security side and the customer friend. There's a lot of business transformation going on across government, as I'm sure some of you are aware, and within defence. We have a P3M element to the company that supports and has supported, for example, the Met Police on a major transformation program over the last 4 or 5 years, and we continue to do that. And that's rolling out across other forces and indeed across other government departments, and the same in defence. There's probably some synergies with our sort of cyber and security offering as well. Growing team of probably about 12 or 15 now, as we do that sort of cyber assurance, that cyber vulnerability testing, that cyber planning for whether it's a platform, whether it's an organization, or a program. Digital services in a similar vein. We do a lot of customer friend stuff, both with Defence Digital, you know, on programs such as New Style of IT, and others. Training. We've got a digital training visualization team. We put in place a virtual walkthrough of the Queen Elizabeth carrier about 3, 4, 5 years ago now, and are using that to do bespoke training for both maintainers and operators across a range of platforms and systems in defence primarily, but obviously it's got utility outside defence as well.
Can I give you your 2-minute warning, Paul?
Yeah, systems engineering. We've you know, cuts across a whole raft of acquisition, requirement setting, delivery, and acceptance, and we talked about the synthetic environment side of things there as well. Environmentally, quite strong for us in Australia because they're quite focused on a whole raft of environmental issues, of course, with the, you know, the sort of Great Barrier Reef, the fires. We've done heat assessments. We've done vulnerability for remote communities, ports, harbours, and a whole raft of industrial sites, and we're rolling that out into the UK as well. Asset monitoring, this is oil and gas generally, offshore, monitoring those platforms in the Gulf, and reporting and allowing engineers to get out there and deal with something before it actually becomes a problem. So condition-based monitoring, largely. Values, because every company has those: trust, innovation, passion, collaboration, respect. We have, again, work very closely with our customers. It's not a take it or leave it. It's we'll help you get to where you want to be type approach. So in a nutshell, that is BMT. I've probably used more than my 10 minutes, noting that the first sort of couple of minute debacle we had as everything froze on me at this end. All right. But I hope that gives you a sort of a flavour for who we are and what we are, and indeed the sort of wide range of stuff that we do.
Thank you, Paul. Trying to capture BMT in 10 minutes is no mean feat, because you have fingers in so many pies. It's just, I find it absolutely mind-boggling how much work across how many different sectors and projects that your company are involved with. So you've done really well to capture that. Thank you so much.
I skipped over a lot of it, but thanks.
Yeah, no. I've had a couple of questions into the chat, and I have a few myself. So I don't know if any of the panel have questions. By all means, unmute and ask away yourselves. But I'll kick off with. I saw that you mentioned, Paul, that you were moving into sort of cyber. Have you worked with the Cyber Ship Lab down on campus at all yet? And are you aware? And if not, could we introduce you?
The one at the university, you mean? Yes, no, we are very much part of that. In fact, we were due to sign an MOU with them probably 2 weeks ago, but our CEO caught COVID, Sarah Kelly, so didn't come down, which is disappointing, because she was going to come down and meet the Plymouth team. She sort of does most years, but no, we're very much part of that sort of initiative, that sort of research and development, and we're on the back of that, we're also doing a lot of R&D and exploratory work in the autonomous area, unmanned surface platforms, and the certification and regulation of those, using that synthetic environment that I showed earlier. Yeah, no, it's a real strength of the city now, isn't it? It's great with the smart sound and everything. And sort of electric vessels, how far off are they becoming economically viable and commercially, achievable? Sort of, I imagine across Yeah, I mean, I'm not an engineer, so but the hybrids, propulsion systems that we put into the ferries are very much that hybrid, as you'd expect with a car, because of the issues of charging, duration, the sort of endurance of the batteries, the loading, the resilience, the
Sorry, we've lost your sound there.
Redundancy. Orban wanted that P&O ferry that was drifting off Ireland recently to be reliant on battery power, I suspect. So I suspect it will come. It will come for small inshore, local type platforms that aren't carrying high risk cargoes, and that have runs that are quite, I guess, quite short in the first instance. There's a lot of other technologies, new fuels, and other energy saving technologies that you can also put into shipping, and that is being explored for sort of short haul container vessel routes across the North Sea and into Europe as well.
Yeah, so I've got another question for you, Paul. Sorry, we're picking on you, but what aspects of the BMT's business are done from the Plymouth office?
The Plymouth office started out being manned by ex-submariners, very much doing safety focused work on submarines in support of Babcock through a group called SSMG out of Keynsham up in Bristol. But ever since I joined, and more recently, it started to grow. We've got new mechanical engineer joined us recently, environmentalist. Likewise, one of our training and consultants lives down in Cornwall and is based out of the office. So it's pretty much, and likewise one of our cyber specialists. So it's pretty much representative of the whole of BMT now, which is actually quite exciting. It makes going into the office far more interesting.
That's cool. Thank you for that. I've got a question for Jack, really. You mentioned that staffing is a problem and that you've got more work and you need more people, but I suppose partly how can we fix that problem, and how can we as a science park help you with that recruitment dilemma? Or do you see solutions, or do you think that you're going to have to, how are you going to try and recruit? And can we help you, I suppose?
I feel like that was about 8 questions in one there, but yeah.
I'm rambling.
So I think our issue with recruitment is that there is quite a high demand on the industry in terms of the amount of work, and people are looking to consultants more these days, potentially. We face a slight challenge because we're a smaller company, so we don't quite have the manpower to look at recruitment and advertising and stuff, whereas other companies or our competitors do. And although we have used recruitment consultants in the past, we are wary of that because it can work, but obviously there's a cost associated with it, and it doesn't necessarily provide the best outcome. We at the moment are looking to explore other avenues. So we've just taken on a new engineer who hasn't. Most engineers in our industry come through a kind of degree route, so they will have done A levels and a degree and gone to university. But we have just taken on somebody who was effectively an electrician, but a senior electrician who was working on a site. And we're going to then train him to become a consultant. So he already has a really, really good working knowledge of the systems, but not necessarily the design side of it. So we're exploring that. We're also looking at potentially taking on some apprentices and some more graduates as well. But the issue is that is obviously having the time from our point of view to train them. Yeah, exactly. But obviously it is the long-term investment. So I think it's a challenge, and I don't think we're the only people in this boat. I think a lot of our competitors are the same. I was hoping that there would be a bit of a sort of mass exodus from London when people realised they didn't want to live in a city with COVID, but so far that hasn't materialised, or certainly we haven't seen any fallout from that.
I suppose geographically you're slightly constrained because you physically need people on site.
I was just about to come on to that. I mean, there is the way that we're set up as a business. We do have the capability to work remotely, and I think COVID has kind of proven to people that is possible. But from a personal point of view, I think we lose efficiency in some sense. So we do, as a company, have a flexible working policy so people can work from home, and there is that option there. But having someone who is purely remote, you miss that interaction in the office. So I think we would always want our staff to have at least some presence in the office. So it is a challenge, and it's a challenge that I think a lot of people are facing. But we'll just have to see, I think.
Yeah. And then I suppose another question for you, Jack, just while I've got you, from me really, is in terms of procurement frameworks and jumping through hoops to be in a position to tender and apply for work. How do you balance your portfolio in terms of small, medium and large projects and clients?
Well, we've actually been very lucky. People say you make your own luck, and there's probably a bit of that, but we have been very, very lucky and fortunate with the people that we know in this industry. So since forming the company in February 2020, we haven't to date actively looked for any work. So every project that we've had, every single bit of work has come through us, or someone's come to us and said, can you do this?
That was my follow-on question. How do you advertise yourself? But you don't need to, so your work advertises. So
we basically don't need to advertise. As we start to grow, our sort of long-term plans are to probably get to around between 10 and 15 people, but we don't want to go over that because we see the value in a smaller company that is a lot more hands-on. If we go and meet a client, generally it'll be us or someone that they've met who's actually working on the project. We don't have ambitions to become a sort of 100-strong employee business because it doesn't really fit our model of quality. So in terms of deciding what jobs we take on, it's in some ways slightly ad hoc, but because we have these close relationships with our clients, we are able to ask them to somewhat structure the opportunities that come our way so that they're staggered so that we can fit that around everything else. But certainly we are at the point now where we have to really consider every opportunity on its merit, and we are starting to have to say no quite a lot as well because we just simply can't resource it.
That's quite hard. Yeah, so another question for you, Jack, sorry. What qualifications do you need from the people that you're trying to hire?
So as I said before, so traditionally in engineering, it would be graduates, someone with a degree. We're kind of looking to think outside of the box at the moment. So I do a lot of STEM work with schools. I'm a construction ambassador and an enterprise advisor for a school in Cornwall. And the sort of advice that I'm giving to them at the moment, and sort of my personal opinion, is that a lot of the stuff that you need to do in the job that we do can be taught on the job. So as long as you've got the kind of basic skills, so IT literacy, you can math, English, that sort of stuff. Yeah, you can pick up a lot of the stuff on the job. And so that's why we're possibly going to consider looking at apprentices and stuff like that, to get people engaged in what we do a lot earlier on before they start to make decisions on what they're going to be doing in their careers. So in a nutshell, I'd say traditionally it is a degree, but I don't think that is the case for us, and I don't think it will be the case for the industry eventually.
Yeah.
Sorry, Faye, if I may ask a question. Yes. It's Lynette from Blue Screen IT. So we run big boot camps for the government, and part of these boot camps, so this is all IT related. So they do various courses and exams and that type of thing. Jack, would people like that qualify to apply for any positions with your company?
It depends what their interests are, really. So we effectively work in the construction industry, and whilst there is technical aspects of the job in terms of IT software, and when we look at modeling for buildings and lighting design and all that sort of stuff, it gets very technical on the IT side of things, but it all relates to the real world. So people have to be interested in, or at least understand, the real life application of what we do. So it's all very well to sit in a dark room and plug some numbers into a computer, but if in reality that doesn't translate into something that can fit into a building and be cost effective for the client, it doesn't really work. So as long as they are interested in the sort of final product and they understand why we do what we do, then I don't really see there is any particular sort of boundaries that would mean that we wouldn't consider people.
Yeah, because I was thinking, because we do have a load of CVs which we could potentially pass over to you. You can have a look at them. If you're interested,
to afterwards, yeah.
Yes, if you're interested, it's fine. If not, it's just to get their CVs out there, and it's no cost at all.
Yeah.
So this is like completely a free service to you because it's just part of our boot camps. And
thank you for that.
Yes,
I'm conscious of time, Diki, but we'll take that offline after the seminar.
Okay,
thank you.
No, that's not a problem. Sorry, it's Lynette speaking.
No, yeah, thank you. I've got a final question for Ed, if I may. How do you ensure the solutions that you provide to your clients are the right solutions? Because clearly I imagine that you probably start a conversation and they've got an idea of what they want, but sometimes that probably isn't the best fit for what they actually need.
No, and I would expect part of our value is that we work, with them to get to that right solution. They typically, we find our clients know their business very well. We know the technology that will support that business. So we work. We often follow what's called the GDS, Government Digital Government Service Manual, which is designed to work very closely and iteratively with our customers. So we start with what's often called a discovery phase, where we bring in experts who will understand the business and how that translates to technology, will understand the users and how the user actually works with things, and that gets distilled into what then becomes an alpha stage, where you start putting ideas a bit more tangible around how a solution could work, and you work through that very iteratively with the customer, and then you go into what's known as a beta stage, where you start to put solutions together that can actually be used. Quite often, if you go on government websites, you will see a little banner at the top saying this is in beta. And that's what that means. That's it's very much an iterative way of working to get to the right solution by trying things out and building on what works well and quickly changing things that don't work well.
Cool. I'm going to go and play with the forestry research website after this when we finish. But I from my PhD, I was looking at sort of the elm decline sort of 5,200 years ago, sort of from fossil pollen grains preserved in peat in Scotland, and I'm thinking these things just, they're still happening, aren't they, all the time? Real life data. So
yes,
yeah, cool. Okay, we should probably wind it up because I'm conscious of time. So just want to say a very big thank you to Paul and Ed and Jack for today's presentations. Really, really interesting. And just to say that our final session of the series will be in 2 weeks' time on Thursday, the 12th of May, same time, same place. So please join us again for that one. And we'll be hearing from Chess Dynamics, Modus Labs and Complete Communications. Okay, so thanks very much. And